The following contains spoilers for Breaking Bad, El Camino, and Better Call Saul. You have been warned. Greetings, fellow mortals. With Better Call Saul finally finished, I feel as though we have a complete picture of Jimmy slash Saul slash Gene. He was a complicated man with a more intricate transformation than even Walter White. Vince Gilligan, the creator of Breaking Bad, described the Heisenberg transformation as a normal man transforming into Scarface. By the time that the final episode of Breaking Bad came around, Walter White had become an irredeemable monster. His only attribute that brings out any sort of empathy is his desire to provide for his children. Even then, it was done through terrible means using bloody, drug-fueled money. At best, he's facing a worse evil in the form of the white supremacists. Of course, we want him to beat them, but I don't know anyone that actually wanted Walter to live or to escape to freedom. In comparison, part of me did want Jimmy to redeem himself at the end of Better Call Saul. I wanted to see the good part of him come back. I don't think it ever truly died in Jimmy's soul like with Walter. Saul Goodman was a coward that ran, lied, cheated, and stole in order to get ahead. We never got to see if he would actually follow through with a violent act, though. That was never in his nature. And even when Saul was at his darkest, the opportunity to assault or kill other people was always stolen from him. We'll never know if he would have murdered the cancer-stricken Mark from the last few episodes, but we did see him back away when it came to hurting Marion. Deep down, however, I knew it was way too late. I crushed the part of me that still loved Jimmy McGill. That man was dead. There was no use focusing on him. Saul Goodman needed to be punished. He couldn't be left out in society because as long as he was free, Saul was going to bring suffering to the world. That was shown when he couldn't stop himself from stealing rich men's identities as Gene. Even when he had nothing to gain by making money that way, Saul continued to act as Slipping Jimmy. That's all he had left, because what he actually wanted was forever out of his grasp. No one was ever going to love him again. It's hard to say where it all started. Jimmy's relationship with his father showed that he thought his dad was a fool. Based off of Chuck's testimony and the flashback to Mrs. McGill's death, Jimmy's parents did love him, but they wanted him to change to be better. They wanted him to be like Chuck. So that's what Jimmy eventually decided to do. He followed Chuck's footsteps in every way so that he could be like his brother and earn the love of the one person who had helped him no matter what. While Chuck brings out negative feelings in many viewers, it's still good to look at things from Chuck's perspective. Jimmy did steal and hurt everyone around him. It was hard to believe that Slippin' Jimmy would be an upstanding lawyer. With Jimmy's mind, charisma, and ability to use the law, Chuck's jealousy bubbled to the surface. He had to keep Jimmy from being a lawyer. It was all Chuck had. After all, people already loved Jimmy no matter what. Just like Jimmy had to be protected from the law had to be protected from Jimmy. This was where Chuck was dead wrong, though. People didn't love Jimmy, they loved the idea of Jimmy. They loved his charisma, they loved the mask that he showed everyone. But when they saw him for who he really was, they left him. In some way or another, they abandoned him. They demanded that he change. They demanded that he be better. Except for Marco. Marco was always willing to embrace the real Jimmy with a hug. Marco loved Jimmy McGill, not in spite of his flaws, but because of them. Of course, even Marco left Jimmy in the end. Being angry at a person for dying isn't logical, but we all do it. I can only imagine what Jimmy felt at losing the one person who loved him without question. It was a weight that Jimmy made sure to hold with him every day with Marco's pinky ring. The camera constantly showed Jimmy playing with the ring when he was thinking. Despite appearing so little in the show, Marco had just as big of an influence on Saul Goodman as Chuck or Kim, except that there was no going back for him once he passed away. The same thing could be said for Chuck. After spending so much time trying to keep the status quo of Jimmy being beneath him, Chuck eventually found himself at the end. He and Jimmy continually made choices in order to hurt each other. They brought out the worst in each other, even though they both longed to be embraced by their brother. Neither one of them were willing to be the bigger man, move past their emotional pain, and reach out with an olive branch. And the sad thing is that it wouldn't have taken much to bring them together. All that was needed was a little bit of forgiveness to lead to closure. When Chuck died, that closure was forever sealed off. Instead of dealing with the dismay he felt at losing his brother, Jimmy did what he always did and ran away. Instead of mourning, he kept moving. He pretended that it wasn't eating at his soul. He acted like the fact that Chuck never gave him the love that he needed didn't kill a part of his humanity. Instead, Jimmy took all that pain and lashed out at Howard because Howard was the man who Chuck always looked at in respect as an equal in the field of law. Never mind the fact that Chuck mistreated and used Howard just as much as anyone else. With Marco and Chuck gone, there was only one person left that knew who Jimmy really was and didn't completely leave him behind. Unfortunately, Kim Wexler proved to be as bad for Jimmy as the enabling Marco and the condescending Chuck. Kim and Jimmy enabled the worst parts of each other, because Kim loved the feeling of adrenaline that came from Jimmy's schemes. She never put her foot down. At the same time, Jimmy became the source of Kim's addiction. They created a spiral that dragged each other into the worst possible versions of themselves. In Kim's video, I focused on her downfall in the relationship. She definitely has her share of the blame, but Jimmy is even more accountable. He was the one that continued to do scams when he was in a dream position as a lawyer. He was the one who continued to feud with Chuck. He was the one that spent a year doing scams instead of simply buying time until he could be a lawyer again. He was the one that decided to work with Lalo. He was the one who decided to be a criminal lawyer. He should have put his foot down with Kim. He should not have supported her addiction to his scams. That part was on him, just like Kim's half was on her. That's the thing about being in a romantic relationship. It's different from friendship or brotherhood. Both parties need to agree to work together to be better versions of themselves. Neither Saul nor Kim strive to be better in their relationship. Maybe they did in their professional lives, but certainly not in their personal lives, especially Saul Goodman. I still stand by the idea that Jimmy was creating his own self-fulfilling prophecy. Saul actively pushed Kim away with his actions. He wanted her to leave him because he didn't think that he deserved to be loved. At the same time, Jimmy desperately desired to be known and to be embraced for who he was as a person. That was the conundrum of Saul Goodman. He was a coward whose biggest fear was also his greatest desire. Even without the fallout with Lalo, his relationship with Kim was doomed. To get what he wanted out of life, he needed to look his pain in the face, accept it, and work to move past it. If Jimmy had done that, he would have created a path that Kim would have embraced to be with him, because Kim did in fact love him. She loved him so much that it hurt her. She loved him to the point that their relationship left her shattered. Kim lost her love of the law, her ability to make decisions, and her passion for simply existing after years of feeling guilty about Howard. Like with everyone else in his life, Jimmy destroyed a person that he loved simply because he was afraid and he couldn't be honest about his feelings. Once he lost everyone that he ever loved, Jimmy fully embraced his Saul Goodman personality. He distracted himself during his every waking moment by focusing on making money and pleasure. It was shown that Saul always used money as a way to distract himself from his actual feelings. Money was just a substitute for love. That was shown time and time again and emphasized with his time travel thought experiment. In the end, working scams and getting money was what led to his inevitable downfall. Even when he was shown clear signs that he needed to stop, Saul kept pushing his luck. He approached Walter White in Walt's own school and then later broke into the cancer patient's house as Gene. He couldn't stop himself because money was all that he had left. Nothing filled him with happiness. All he had was to substitute for Marco, Chuck, and Kim's love, so he couldn't stop until he got caught. That was when he realized that it was far too late. There was no time machine to fix things. There were so many regrets that he couldn't even begin to name them all. No one recognized him as Jimmy McGill. To society and his fellow prisoners, he was just Better Call Saul. Nothing was going to change how everyone saw him, except for Kim. She recognized that he finally stopped running. She saw him as Jimmy McGill one last time. The last scene between the two of them was an acknowledgement, a thank you, and a final goodbye. Saul gave up the greatest legal deal possible for him for that one moment of smoking with Kim. Instead of serving 7 years, he has to serve over 80. He will never be free again, and he deserves that. After everything he's done and would do if he was free, Saul Goodman can never be allowed on the streets. But he at least stopped himself from making even more mistakes. He won't hurt anyone ever again. There won't be any more money. He won't even get Kim to love him again. But he did finally gain closure and stopped himself from being a coward. Part of me didn't like the ending at first. While I wanted Saul to be punished, I expected a swell of music and for the world to shift back into color. That never happened, and it didn't fit the show. There was no more going back. All that was left was a shell of Jimmy McGill named Saul Goodman. There was no more money, and there was no more love. Because to be loved, one must work to be a person worthy of love. And Saul never did that, and he accepted that in the end. He may never be loved, but he found peace at the very least. And that was the best redemption that he was ever going to receive. Thank you so much for watching. If you like my takes on storytelling, please consider subscribing and liking the video. It would really help me out. Also, remember that I'll be self-publishing my novel, Dance of Frozen Death, at the start of 2023. I hope that you will check it out. I appreciate you. Do not despair.